The first moving box slipped from his hands, burst open across the front porch, and spilled faded photographs, worn children's books, and a small wooden frame that shattered against the steps. Before he could kneel to gather the pieces, the woman standing in the doorway folded her arms, looked at the broken memories scattered at her feet, and quietly told him that he wouldn't last a week living with her. The neighbors passing by slowed their pace, expecting another argument, another failed arrangement, another stranger walking away from the old house before sunset. Instead, the man looked at every broken photograph, gently picked up the cracked frame, smiled with calm certainty, and made a decision so unexpected that it left her completely speechless. Before we continue this emotional journey, if you believe kindness can heal even the deepest wounds, that forgiveness is stronger than pride, and that hope deserves another chance, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue sharing stories that remind us the human heart is capable of extraordinary things. Graham Mercer had never imagined that losing everything would begin with a promotion. After 20 years of loyal work, the company he had helped build merged with another business, and hundreds of employees, including him, were quietly replaced. The salary disappeared. The mortgage followed. His marriage, already weakened by years of emotional distance, ended with a peaceful but heartbreaking goodbye. By the time autumn sunlight filled the quiet streets of the small coastal town where he had grown up, Graham owned little more than a pickup truck, a few boxes, and enough savings to survive only a short time. He refused to ask family for help because most of them were struggling themselves. He believed he needed to rebuild his dignity before accepting anyone's sympathy. Several miles away, in a bright old Victorian home that overlooked fields of wildflowers, lived a woman named Celeste Rowan. She had inherited the house from her grandmother, but the inheritance felt more like a burden than a blessing. The beautiful property required constant repairs, the taxes continued rising, and after years of caring for her grandmother through illness, Celeste had forgotten how to trust anyone. Every tenant who had rented the spare room had disappointed her. Some failed to pay rent. Others damaged the house. One even disappeared without warning, leaving months of unpaid bills behind. Her smile had become cautious, her kindness protected behind walls built from painful experience. When Graham answered the advertisement for a room to rent, neither of them expected the meeting to last more than a few minutes. Celeste explained every strict rule with remarkable honesty. The kitchen had to remain clean. Shared spaces deserved respect. Privacy mattered. Trust had to be earned slowly. Then, after watching Graham unload his worn belongings, she quietly warned him that nobody ever stayed because living with her was harder than they expected. She believed honesty prevented disappointment later. Graham surprised her by thanking her instead of defending himself. He explained that people often apologized for being difficult only after causing pain, while she had offered the truth before either of them had invested anything emotionally. He said he respected honesty more than comfort. Then he made the unexpected decision that stunned her. Instead of searching for another place, he signed the agreement immediately and said he wanted to stay because difficult situations often revealed the best parts of people. Celeste didn't know how to respond. She had expected frustration, negotiation, or even laughter. Instead, she found herself staring at a man whose confidence came not from pride but from quiet resilience. She simply handed him the key and walked back inside. The first several days felt uncomfortable. Every conversation remained polite but brief. They shared meals without truly eating together. Graham noticed small repairs around the property but never offered opinions unless asked. Celeste observed that he always cleaned every dish immediately, carefully folded blankets after using them, and treated every corner of the old house with respect. Still, neither believed friendship was growing between them. Late one bright morning, Graham noticed one of the porch railings beginning to split. Without mentioning it, he purchased inexpensive wood glue and replacement screws using money he could barely spare. By lunchtime the railing looked stronger than it had in years. Celeste immediately noticed the repair but assumed he expected praise or reduced rent. Instead, Graham simply thanked her for allowing him to borrow a toolbox and returned to searching for work. That quiet act planted the first tiny seed of trust. Over the following weeks, Graham repaired squeaky doors, restored broken garden fences, and organized the cluttered storage shed that Celeste had avoided entering since her grandmother passed away. He never asked permission to change anything significant. He simply respected the house as though protecting someone else's cherished memories. One sunny afternoon, while organizing dusty boxes, Graham discovered dozens of handwritten journals belonging to Celeste's grandmother. Rather than reading them, he carefully cleaned each notebook, placed them inside protective containers, and quietly informed Celeste where they could be safely stored. She stared at the untouched journals with tears filling her eyes because previous tenants had treated family belongings like worthless objects. Graham had treated them like treasures. That afternoon became the first time they sat together on the porch, drinking tea beneath warm daylight without awkward silence separating them. Little by little, their conversations grew longer. Celeste confessed that caring for her grandmother had consumed nearly 10 years of her life. Friends gradually disappeared because she was always unavailable. Relationships quietly faded because every promise depended upon medical emergencies. After her grandmother passed away, people expected relief, but instead she felt empty. She no longer knew who she was outside caregiving. Graham listened without interrupting. When she finally stopped speaking, he simply thanked her for trusting him enough to tell the truth. Those simple words carried more comfort than elaborate advice ever could. Several weeks later, Graham received disappointing news after another unsuccessful job interview. Graham sat alone reading the notes several times. Nobody had encouraged him like that since losing his former life. The walls inside his heart, built from disappointment and loneliness, began to crack. Their growing friendship attracted neighborhood attention. Some neighbors misunderstood the situation, assuming romance explained their kindness toward one another. Others warned Celeste not to trust another tenant. Years of disappointment had taught everyone to expect betrayal eventually. Those whispers reached Celeste. For the first time in years, fear returned. She wondered whether trusting Graham had been another mistake waiting to happen. Instead of accusing him or creating unnecessary conflict, she quietly became distant. Graham noticed immediately but respected her silence. Days passed without explanation. Finally, one bright afternoon, Celeste apologized. She admitted she had allowed other people's fears to become louder than her own experience. Graham smiled gently and admitted he understood because pain always echoed longer than hope. That single conversation strengthened their friendship more than months of peaceful living. As spring sunlight warmed the old property, another challenge arrived. The county announced new structural requirements for older homes. Repairs would cost far more than Celeste could possibly afford. Selling the family home suddenly became a heartbreaking possibility. She tried hiding the letters. Graham accidentally found one while collecting mail. Rather than offering empty reassurance, he spent the following days contacting local charities, retired contractors, and community volunteers willing to preserve historic homes. Many politely declined. A few agreed. Then something remarkable happened. Neighbors who had once doubted Graham watched him painting fences, replacing damaged boards, and hauling supplies without asking for anything in return. Slowly they joined him. One brought lumber. Another donated paint. Someone else repaired plumbing. A retired electrician volunteered an entire weekend. Children planted flowers around the entrance. The lonely property slowly transformed into the brightest house on the street. Celeste stood in the front yard watching dozens of smiling faces working together beneath the afternoon sun. She couldn't stop crying. For years she believed people always left. Now strangers were choosing to stay. When the final inspection passed successfully, the old home remained standing because an entire community had decided compassion mattered more than convenience. That evening, while everyone shared sandwiches and homemade desserts across folding tables in the garden, Celeste quietly admitted something she had never expected to say aloud. She confessed that when Graham first arrived carrying broken boxes and exhausted eyes, she had already decided he would fail just like everyone before him. Instead, he had restored far more than damaged walls. He had restored her ability to believe in people again. Graham smiled with humble gratitude. He admitted she had unknowingly saved him as well. If she had chosen an easier tenant or if he had chosen an easier landlord, neither would have discovered the healing that only difficult circumstances sometimes reveal. Months later, Graham accepted a meaningful position managing restoration projects for historic buildings, inspired entirely by the work he had completed around Celeste's home. The steady income allowed him to rebuild his life with confidence rather than desperation. Yet despite now being able to afford his own apartment, he chose not to leave immediately. Instead, he remained long enough to ensure Celeste felt secure managing the property again. Their friendship had become something stronger than convenience. They had become family in every way that truly mattered. On the day Graham finally prepared to move into his new place, the same front porch where broken photographs had once scattered across the steps looked completely different. Fresh flowers bloomed along the walkway. The repaired railing stood strong beneath bright sunshine. The cracked wooden picture frame that had broken on his first day had been carefully restored and now displayed a photograph of everyone who had helped save the house. It reminded them that broken things could become beautiful again when enough caring hands refused to give up. Before saying goodbye, Celeste quietly admitted she still remembered the words she had spoken when he first arrived. She had been absolutely certain he wouldn't survive a week under her roof. Graham laughed warmly and reminded her that sometimes the greatest opportunities arrive disguised as impossible situations. The house had offered him shelter, but the people inside it had given him something far greater, a reason to believe that home is not built from wood or stone but from trust, compassion, and the courage to remain when leaving would have been easier. Before this story ends, tell us in the comments, have you ever met someone who completely changed your opinion about trust or kindness? Your story may encourage someone else who is struggling today to believe that people can still surprise us in the most beautiful ways. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember that life often places the right people in our path at the exact moment we believe we can no longer trust anyone. Sometimes the person who is told they will never belong becomes the very one who teaches everyone else the true meaning of loyalty, forgiveness, hope, and the quiet miracle of choosing to stay when love, kindness, and second chances need us most.